Hey yo, it's Dual Killing Anime coming at you again with another video, and this week, of course you can see by the title, I'm bringing back the Art of Storytelling series that I wanted to do. I did a video 2 months ago with the Art of Storytelling talking about how you can have great villains, in my opinion, of course. Of course, this series was inspired by another YouTube anime community reviewer. His name's Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga. Alright, I may take this even further, but who knows. This week, I'm going to do an Art of Storytelling video about character development. And it's character development, in my opinion, which can make or break a lot of good or bad series. I came across this video because I wanted to talk about how characters changing over time makes a story much better. And some people say that it's not the most precious things, like some of the 11 supernovas in my collab group, or even some of the other YouTube anime community reviewers. But this is a system that I'm going to break down how character development is actually made and what are the benefits of character development for a story inside of anime and manga, or just any type of literature, okay? So this is the 5 steps that I've said to have effective character development. And I'll tell you why I put these. The first step was that you obviously need to have a character flaw, or something about the character that is flawed, that is hindering them from attaining their specific goals, alright? Let's think about Naruto. He wants to become the Hokage, and he wants to be recognized by the village in part 1. Prior to our knowledge about Naruto Shippuden, his flaw was that he was naive of the world, that he couldn't achieve everything with his base knowledge, and over time he gained trusting of others who believed in him and got that hard work and that foundation to get it. But it's not all that counts to become Hokage. He needs to be recognized by the village. He needs to have some type of mental or psychological growth inside of him to lead a village. The second step is that there needs to be an opposite. There needs to be a counter, either an antagonist or this opposing plot device in a story that prevents the character from progressing, because the plot device's strength is that character's flaw, and the plot device or the character can agitate the main character's flaw to prevent the main character from achieving their goal. Alright, the third step is obviously the main character slowly edging in achieving their goal. He's managing to slowly, get there. Let's think about One Piece. Luffy, he's in the Grand Line. He defeats these bunch of enemies, whether it's at Barity, whether it's at Orange Town, whether it's at Buggy the Clown, Buggy the Clown, Captain Kuro, Don Krieg, Arlong, anyone. And he's slowly but surely building himself up. He has 30 million berries. He went to Alabasta, got 100 million berries, beat Crocodile. And then you drop a big bomb on him. Over time, Luffy's struggle inside of the Grand Line, his struggle started getting more. Arlong was a threat, and he was a more threat of Don Krieg or Captain Kuro or Buggy the Clown. And even Crocodile was more of a threat than Arlong. And then he fights Skypiea, and Nell was more of a threat than Crocodile. And, just to build up towards that, even in Thriller Bark, they couldn't even fare against Kuma at the time. And they're barely, and surely barely, their success rate is starting to be slimmer. They're still succeeding until that final drop-off point, which is step 4, where Sabaody Archipelago, they can't handle the Navy Admiral and Admiral Kizaru, and they can't protect their crew, and Kuma's putting them everywhere, and Luffy specifically doesn't have the power to protect them. And then you build them back up again to where they know how to counteract their flaws by learning what they need to do to prevent that step 4, that downfall, of happening again. This is important because it allows you to effectively change your character in logical paces, okay? It doesn't matter if you have a long anime or manga or short anime or manga. If you can complete these steps logically, then it equates to good character development. I'll say it with one example from Yu Yu Hakusho with Yusuke. In the first step with his flaw, Yusuke was a punk kid. He had no goals for himself. He had no foundation of whether he should be morally right or wrong. He knew stuff that he would do and was wrong, and he had a wither-away system of what was right because he saved a little boy on episode 1, but there was never any motivation or goal towards himself for growth and development. Number two, there was an opposite, somebody who would antagonize his growth and development for that. Now, this opposite doesn't exactly have to be a villain, but it has to be something that will affect his goals and will prevent him from achieving his goals. He's a spirit detective, so obviously he has to complete missions towards the spirit world. You can think of Toguro. Guys like Toguro's are his moral opposite because it threatened his livelihood and Keiko's livelihood, because Toguro said if he didn't compete in the tournament, then he himself would kill everyone that he loved around him. Even Sensui, he was about to threaten the human world and the demons. That's the second step. The third step is him slowly progressing towards that goal. We saw Yusuke earlier. He defeated Rando. He defeated Rando. Then he progressed to training with Genkai and went over to the Four Beasts. Then he progressed more to seeing the Toguro brothers for the first time. Then he progressed more after beating them to beating Sensui. Every time Rando, he beat him. And every time he would beat an enemy, it'd be by a slimmer and slimmer chance until there'd be a climax, until the character would have to change. The good thing about Yusuke was that this happened multiple times. And then number four is the fact where he had to crumble the bridges and, his character just fell as a whole. Whether it be when he faced Toguro, when Genkai died, they had to break down the walls of that character in order for Yusuke to learn that flaw, that he couldn't let such things as failing to save his friends affect him. The same lesson that Toguro didn't learn until after the fact. And also in the chapter Black Arc, when he was facing Sensui and coming to terms with the fact that is not always morally correct, and what he's doing right now, he has to question everything as much as Sensui has been doing. Number five, like I said, is that. Now, something that's not good character development, and I'll go through these steps again. I'm going to use the character Monkey D. Luffy from the series One Piece. And these steps, you would think, he's in these steps. He has good character development. But there's specifics about these steps inside of Monkey D. Luffy's character that hinders that. The first step, of course, the flaw. I'd say a flaw in Monkey D. Luffy is that he's very naive. There are a lot of characteristics that he doesn't have as a captain for the Straw Hat crew that is identified in the story. He says, I may not be a navigator, I may not be a swordsman, I may not be a sniper, but I'm a fighter and I'll protect every one of my crew. Quote, he says that in the Arlong Park arc. But the thing about it is, over time, his character needs to change and evolve from that in order to achieve his goals. He isn't the type of person who can succeed with just being trigger happy, fighting all the time, and not being the one to mainly lead his crew. There's been hints about this happening. For example, with Vivi, when he questioned Vivi's goals to save the people of Alubarna rather than them to just straight up fight Crocodile, but he steps in the way and says, we're pirates, which means we can't be thinking about these noble deeds and actions. Vivi, you'd have better success with going by yourself, but we can help you by facing off with Crocodile and facing the sacrifices that those people are going to make right now. The second one is the moral opposite. Luffy has a couple moral opposites, but these opposites don't stick. Of course, with Enel, with his god complex, where Luffy doesn't have that, he faces antagonists, but his real opposite usually comes later. You could say it's in the form of like Kainu with his form of justice, and how Luffy wants to just be free on the ocean. Quote, he said that when he was speaking with Silver's Rayleigh back in Sabaudi Archipelago. And also against Blackbeard with what he's done with Ace and everything. So I guess that's his more opposite. Luffy's not as cunning, and then Blackbeard's more as cunning and devious and quick to get ahead, whereas Luffy is stubborn, hard-headed, and he's straightforward. And then the third one we know is that he slowly progresses from his goals. From the East Blue, he fought Captain Kuro, he fought Buggy the Clown, he fought Don Krieg, he fought Arlong, and progressively as these arcs were going, these villains got stronger and stronger, so his chances of victory were slimming and slimming. And of course, when he got into the Grand Line, he's facing Smoker, he was facing Crocodile, he was facing Eneru, he was facing Kuma, he was facing shit. Let me say, nah, you guys know what I'm talking about. And his chances were slimming up until the Sabaudi Archipelago arc, where he was facing a Navy Admiral in Kizaru, and the threats of the Pacifitas and them and the Navy soldiers were too much for them to handle. And they were thinking, let's go to the Grand Line as soon as possible, without even thinking of anything. And then the fourth step, like I just said before, is where everything just drops, where Kuma sends them all disappearing. Luffy doesn't have the power himself to protect the crew, even though it turned out that Kuma was trying to help them escape. Luffy didn't have the power to protect his crew. Silver's Rayleigh had to come in and fight Admiral Kizaru. They couldn't even defeat against the pacifistas, and these aren't even the most strongest powers in the New World. So that was a wake-up call to them. And also what happened in the Whitebeard War, when Luffy was pushing himself and impelled down and at the Navy HQ to save his brother Ace, but it still came to be a fail, where he was just literally tossed around and bitched out by all the other strong opponents inside of the war. And like the granny on the Kuja Pirates Island said, you would just be an ant in a storm, which Luffy would. And what he was supposed to pick up from that was that he can't go into these situations think that he could just be straightforward and go towards his goals without thinking about such things to protect his crew, because he's the captain. That's the overall point. You would think that he would got this after he accepted Silver's Rayleigh's offer to train with him in hockey for 2 years, but after that he's showing a lot of symptoms of the old Luffy that we do love to see. He's very entertaining, but it's not wise to do so and to write him that way, because it doesn't show progression of the story. We want to see him grow into achieving his dream, and we know he has these flaws, but if he's not changing these flaws, then what's the starting to go for the story? In order for a story to be successful, you need to have character transformation to give deeper meaning into the story. And in order for characters to be successful, you need to put a story and plot in place in order for the character to play around. Alright, that's my opinion on it. Give me you guys' opinion down below. That's what I think about the art of storytelling in regards to character development. Like or dislike this video, it does not matter. It's been Dual Killing Anime. You've had all the quality content with none of the filler, and if you don't know what that is, then you need to watch more anime.